In a quiet countryside village, where mornings arrived gently and evenings settled like a soft blanket, there lived an elderly water carrier known for his steady steps and calm heart. Each day, before the sun fully rose, he lifted a long wooden pole onto his shoulders and walked the narrow dirt road to a distant well. Hanging from each end of the pole were 2 earthen jars, balanced carefully as he moved along the familiar path. One jar was smooth, strong, and perfectly shaped. Not a single drop ever escaped from it. The other jar carried a thin crack along its side. Because of that crack, water slowly leaked out during the long walk home, leaving the jar only half full by the time they returned. The flawless jar took great pride in itself. It admired its own strength and perfect form. Every day it arrived home full, while the cracked jar quietly lost water along the way. Over time, the perfect jar began to feel superior. Each morning, as they swayed gently with the water carrier's steps, the perfect jar would glance sideways with quiet judgment. It noticed how water dripped from the cracked jar, darkening the dusty road beneath them. Slowly, arrogance took root. One day, unable to hold its thoughts any longer, the perfect jar spoke in a sharp, mocking tone. It told the cracked jar that it was useless. It said the water carrier wasted effort carrying something so broken. It called the crack a failure and the jar a burden. The cracked jar said nothing. It had no words to defend itself. But those words sank deep, heavier than the water it carried. Day after day, the same journey continued, the same path, the same leak, the same quiet humiliation. The cracked jar began to believe the cruel whispers it heard. Over time, shame filled its heart. It felt smaller with every step. It questioned its worth. It wondered why it still existed at all. One morning, as sunlight spilled across the road and birds greeted the day, the cracked jar could no longer contain its sorrow. As water leaked from its side, something else fell too. Quiet tears mixed with the dripping water, soaking into the earth. With a trembling voice, the cracked jar finally spoke to the water carrier. It apologized for being broken. It said it felt ashamed for wasting his effort. It begged for forgiveness for being flawed and incomplete. The water carrier stopped walking. He lowered the pole gently and looked at the jar with kind, patient eyes. His voice was calm and warm as he asked why it felt such deep sadness. The cracked jar confessed everything. It spoke of feeling worthless, of losing water every day, of believing it was a failure that could never do anything right. The water carrier listened without interruption. When the jar finished speaking, he smiled softly and said not to worry. He promised that soon the jar would understand its true value. The next morning, the journey began as usual. The well shimmered in the early light. The air felt fresh and peaceful. As they walked back, the water carrier gently asked both jars to look closely at the ground beside the road. The cracked jar looked down and froze in surprise. Along its side of the path, bright flowers bloomed in rich colors. Their petals danced in the breeze, glowing with life. For a moment, the jar forgot its sadness. The perfect jar looked down on its side of the path. The ground was dry and bare, covered only in dust and stones. When they arrived home, the cracked jar once again noticed that it carried less water. Its joy faded. It whispered that it had still failed. The water carrier sat beside the jars and explained gently. He said he had always known about the crack. Long ago, he had planted seeds along that side of the path. Every day, the water that leaked had nourished those seeds, giving life to beauty that now filled the road. Travelers stopped to admire the flowers. Children laughed among them. The path had become a place of joy because of the jars cracked. Tears flowed again from the cracked jar, but this time they were filled with relief. For the first time, it felt useful. It felt seen. Then something unexpected happened. The perfect jar spoke, its voice no longer proud. It apologized for its cruelty. It admitted that while it focused on being perfect, it created nothing beyond itself. The water carrier smiled at both jars and shared his wisdom. He said no one in the world is truly perfect. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Each person has a purpose, even when it is hidden within flaws. He explained that the perfect jar carried water for drinking and cooking, which was essential. The cracked jar brought beauty to a lifeless path. Both were needed. Together, they made life complete. From that day on, the jars traveled as companions, not rivals. One carried water with humility. The other leaked water with joy. Then the story gently turns toward us. Like those jars, we all carry cracks. Some are visible, some are hidden. We compare ourselves and judge too quickly. But flaws are not failures. Often, they are the places where growth begins. Take a moment now. Think about one thing you dislike about yourself. Breathe in slowly. As you breathe out, ask yourself how that imperfection might serve a purpose you have not yet seen. You do not need to fix it right now. Just notice it with kindness. Your cracks can create beauty. Your cracks can create beauty. If this story touched your heart, gently like, share, and subscribe so more stories like this can find those who need them.